Hello everyone, this is Josh Vision, and I'm here to give my season 2 finale review of Peaky Blinders. So in this episode, we have Tommy put his, not only his assassination plans in order, but also his will in a sense. So he writes this letter. He basically talks about everything that he intends on doing today, with the assassination of Henry Russell, but also the reason why this is happening, mainly due to the crown and Chief Campbell basically forcing his hand and making him do this, and how it's unfair, so on and so forth. And if anyone reads this, basically, he's already dead, most likely. So, besides that, we have Ada and him talking. I think Ada made him some breakfast or something. And she was saying that what pisses her off most about Tommy is that he always holds things in and that they all love him. It's kind of interesting because the way she said it and Tommy's reaction is more like a shock, sometimes you hear things and but when you actually feel it, kind of like music, it really hits a note. And I think it really hit him, and then James comes, and then Tommy snaps out of it, and they have to go about today's planned events. So Tommy uses James basically as like a guard post in a sense. James is supposed to stay there in front of Solomon's building while he negotiates with Solomon. So he tells Solomon straight up that he wants him to basically free his brother from prison. Because we all know what happened last episode. Arthur got framed for killing Billy Kitchens and some of his men due to Alfie's Solomon's plan and his ego being hurt, and also his pride, with Sabini mentioning how basically Tommy is taking over everything. So Tommy's able to convince or tell Alfie that, listen, remember that whole thing with you and Sabini, that agreement you made, the truce about him allowing your bookies to go to the racetrack, the Derby, the horse track. Well, he's lying to you. That hasn't worked, and he's been basically blocking off your bookies basically and taking the moolah. So basically, he's been lying to you. So that pisses off Alfie, and Alfie agrees to, basically, like I mentioned before, have Arthur taken out of prison. So that's one phase of Thomas's plan going well. So we have Aunt Polly and Michael have this scene in which Aunt Polly takes out a good amount of money. I forgot where actually, but she takes out a good amount of money and she gives it to Michael, telling him basically to leave and go someplace else and make another living, because this isn't the type of life she'll want for anyone, especially her son, and that he better not be there when she comes back. So you're wondering where she's going. Then you realize, oh wait, she must be going, to the Derby, essentially. So when we see Tommy meets up with Arthur, because Arthur, John, the rest of the Peaky Blinder gang. So Tommy gives them clear instructions, okay? He wants them to basically beat up, take out Sabini's men, and take their bet money, and to, if I remember correctly, and their booking licenses, I believe. Because due to Tommy's connection to Mae Charlton, who has great influence, and also I think she's a part of the committee, or she knows someone part of the committee, then that's going to benefit the Peaky Blinders, and Tommy will reap all the benefits from the booking in his organization, so on and so forth. So it was a really highly calculated, plan, but this is Tommy Shelby after all. So with that phase done, Tommy now has to basically track down Henry Russell. So while this is happening, Grace shows up, and Grace lets Tommy know that she's pregnant with his son. And Tommy at first is like, listen, let your husband think that's his kid. But she's like, no, she really wants to be with him, and she's really holding him back from what he has to do, his objective. So he said, listen, when I'm done, we'll talk about this. So he's finally able to get away from her grasp, and he speaks with Lizzie. And he's able to convince Lizzie to go back to her old prostitute life in order to seduce Henry long enough, Henry Russell long enough for him to kill him. So it's working all fine when she gets him, but then he almost attempts to, have his way, with her, rape her. But Tommy's able to save her at the last moment, and he's able to shoot Henry with his own gun, thusly killing him. So let's get to Campbell. Now, Campbell has members of the Ulster Volunteers, which is basically like a militia group, I believe, from Northern Ireland, whom he wants to kill Tommy, because he doesn't feel the police department would do it. He doesn't think they have the balls, essentially. So he knows those men would do it, tougher men. So the whole plan is after Tommy's taken out, Tom takes the dude out, to basically grab up Tommy when he least expects it and finish the job. So before they get to Tommy, Tommy has this conversation with Sabine. He basically tells Sabine that his whole plan of ruining his ambitions and also basically trying to hoodwink Solomon, that's not working. That's over and done with. He already let Solomon know the deal when it came to the bookies, and also that his men have already dealt with Solomon's bookie men as well. So Solomon's essentially screwed. So when Solomon hears this, he almost tries to shoot a gun at him. Then he tries to cut him, but there's too many witnesses around. And then I believe the Ulster guys come and take away Tommy. But Sabine is still clearly outraged at this point. So also in this episode, we see May meet Grace. And May was like, oh, so you must be Grace. Because I think John mentioned Grace and Tommy's history to her before. I just forgot which episode. So May tells Grace basically that maybe by Tommy and John mentioning you to me, instead of, maybe it shows that he cares about me more since he hasn't even mentioned me to you. And they're going back and forth basically because Grace, you could tell she's a little bit jealous about this new woman in Tommy's life, whatever. And May's like, listen, she tells her about the whole thing about the bookies, their plan, and also she says that, listen, I know you miss Tommy, and I'm basically trying to get the same thing you want out of Tommy. And she's like, what? And she says excitement. So I guess for them, excitement means like love, appreciation, breaking down his wall, all that stuff. So we also have Mr. Campbell and Aunt Polly after last episode, in which he basically kind of forces her, blackmail, whatever, for her to have sex with him. They're in this small little area, and I think he's trying to do the same thing to her, manipulate her, blah, 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 kind of talking down to her in a bit, and then she shoots him. She shoots him right, like point blank, right in the gut, and he dies. And before he dies, she says, don't F with the Peaky Blinders. So Polly gets her revenge. So while this is going on, I believe Tommy's horse wins. I believe. Either that or they did what they were supposed to do, like John and Arthur and Finn, the rest of the gang, in which they took all the betting money and the betting licenses. So they did their job. So let's get to the whole interesting Tommy thing, last thing of the episode. Tommy is basically brought to like a isolated field, all by his lonesome with those three Ulster volunteers, whatever, those militiamen from Northern Ireland. And Tommy made his peace. I think he talks about a woman who he loves. And I think we all know who he's referring to is Grace. And yeah, you think Tommy's going to die, and then one of the guys just shoot the other two, like boom, boom. And it was just crazy. Like you didn't see that, like you wouldn't see that coming, and neither did Tommy. Tommy's like literally in the grave and see these two guys who he thought were just going to finish him alongside the guy with the gun. They're dead. So he's like, what the freak happened? So the last guy standing with the gun, he mentions to Tommy that Winston Churchill wants to meet Tommy at a future point and want to do more business with him. So he tells Tommy to get up and just go back to his house, his home, basically. So Tommy's walking back just like what the freak, like anyone else would be if they were in that situation. Then you see the emotions come out, the tears and all that. And then you see the strong face that Tommy usually always has. So when he comes back to his place, he sees, his office. He sees Michael there, still there, despite his mother's objections, still there. And he wakes up Michael. Then he says I think Michael makes it clear to him, like he said in the 2 episodes previously, I want to stay with the family and I want to make money. But he adds with you and really make this family legitimate. So him and Tommy toast, and Tommy says, "But before we do that, I had to get married." So he did. I think he's gonna marry Grace. I would assume so. So yeah, that's basically all that happened. Well, the major important things that happened, in this episode. Thank you guys for watching my review. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comment section. And yeah, adios. I give this episode a 10 out of 10. It was epic. Epic as always. Bye.